Hello and welcome to JUnit test exceptions examples video. In this video tutorial, you will learn how to assert an exception is thrown in Java using JUnit. With me, Nam Haming from codejava.net. Suppose that we have this user class, you see, and this class implements a setter method set name accepts a parameter name, and in this method we validate the parameter first. You see, if the name is known, a new illegal argument exception is thrown with the message username cannot be blank. Otherwise, if the length of the name is less than 3 characters, a new illegal argument exception is thrown with the message username is too short. And similarly, if the length of the name is greater than 30 characters, a new illegal argument exception is thrown with the message username is too long. So how to assert, how to test this exception in JUnit. The first way can be used in any versions of JUnit is we use the fail method with the child catch structure, as you can see here. In this way, we use Java child catch structure with the fail method in JUnit and assertion methods in JUnit to test the exception. You see, we put the code to test in the child block, and after the test code we fail. So if the code to test doesn't throw any exception, the fail method is executed. That causes the test fails. And if the code in the child block throws an exception, we catch that exception here in the catch block, and in the catch block we can use JUnit assertion methods to test the exception, to assert the exception message. So this is how to test exception in any versions of JUnit. Now let's create a test class for this user class. New JUnit test case. Here I use JUnit 4, okay. JUnit 3, okay. The oldest version of JUnit. No, JUnit 4. Okay. And source folder is a test folder. Package. Okay. User test. Okay. Click next and choose a test method. Is setName method, and click finish. Okay. Now we create a child catch block. User, create a new user object and set the name. For example, Joe. Change the method name to reflect the meaning of the test method. More exactly, test user name to short. No, test username is no. Okay. Now we catch the illegal argument exception here, and you see after the test code we put the fail method here. So if the code doesn't throw any exception, the test case fails. And in the catch block, we can use the assert equal method to assert the exception message. For example, the expected message is username cannot be blank. Okay, and the actual message is a message from the exception object. Okay, you see. Now let's run this test method. I click here, run as JUnit. You see, the test failed because you see the username is not now, but we expect the username is now. So you see the fail method runs, so the test fails. So we set the name to now no here to indicate the test case test username is no. Okay, now run the test again. You see the test succeeded with the green bar appears here. So that's the first way to test exceptions in a JUnit with any version of JUnit by using the try-catch structure with the fail method. Remember, the fail method must be always at the end in the try block. Okay. And in the JUnit file, we can use the assertThrows method to assert an exception is thrown. The first parameter is expected exception class type here, and the second parameter is an executable that uh, runs the test code, and the string message is a message included in the failure message when the test fails. Okay, the message is optional. So now we can create a second test method here using the JUnit file's assert_throws method. Test username to sort. Okay. Now we use the assert_throw. Assert_throw. The expected exception class is the illegal argument exception. Here dot class. This exception is thrown by the assert name method you see here. Okay. and we create an anonymous inner class execute of type executable. Execute. You see, this class implements the execute method defined by the executable interface in our JUnit, and we put a test code here. User new user object, user set name Joe. Okay, and now run this test method. Right click here, test username to start and run as JUnit test. You see the test succeeded. That means the code did throw the expected exception, illegal argument exception. You see, in this set name method, if the length of the name parameter is less than 3 characters, a new illegal argument exception is thrown with the message if the name is too short. So we can also assert this exception message by obtaining the exception object returned by the assert_throws method here. Throwable exception. Okay. Now we can assert the exception method of the exception using the assert equals the expected message is username is too short. Okay. And the actual message is a exception get message. Okay. Now let's modify the username method a little bit. Okay. Now let's run the test username to sort method again. Run. And you see the test failed because the expected exception message is different than the actual exception message. Now let's fix the code. Delete. Okay. And run the test again. Now you see it passes the test. So that's how to use the assert_throws method in the JUnit 5 to assert an exception thrown. It's very easy, you see. And also you can use a lambda syntax to shorten this code. Okay. So with lambda expression we can shorten the code like this. You see, with lambda expression we can shorten our code. See. Now run the test method again. Okay, that's fine. And the third way to test exception in JUnit is use add rule annotation with expected exception class in JUnit 4. As you can see, we declare an object type expected exception with the add rule annotation here. This specify a rule for all test methods in the test case. And in the test method, we call the method expect and expect message to assert the exception is thrown. Now let's write code to use that way. Okay. Now new test method is test username too long. Okay. And we declare so I can collapse this method. Okay. Declare a rule. Okay. Expected exception is a class introduced in the unit 4. Exception, expected exception, none. The none method specifies that this rule expect all the test method doesn't throw exception. So with this declaration, all the existing test methods in the test class are not affected by the rule. Okay. And in the test method, test username too long here, expected the exception is exception. We expected the type of the exception class is illegal argument exception class, and we expect the message is username is too long. Okay, and the test code goes here. User new user set name. For example, a very too long name. Pablo, Jose, Francisco, Picasso, greater than 30 characters. Okay. Francisco Picasso. Okay. Yes, say Picasso. Okay. Now let's run this test method. Test username too long. Okay. Run as the test. You see, the test succeeded. That means the code does throw the illegal argument exception as expected, and the exception has a message username is too long. Okay. That's how to test exception in JUnit 4 with the rule annotation. We apply a rule for every method in the test class. You see. Now, the last way to test exception in JUnit 4 is use test annotation with attribute expected, and here's a expected exception class. Okay. Now we can change this method to use the expected attribute of the test annotation. Delete the rule. Okay. Expected here, and the expected exception class here. Here we go, exception class. Now let's run the test method again. It passes the test case, you see. So you can see using the expected attribute of the add test annotation is simpler, but using this attribute you cannot assert exception message like in using the assertThrows method in JUnit 5. So far, I have shown you how to test exception in JUnit in 4 different ways. You can see the first way is use a child catch structure with the fail method. And the second way is use the assertThrows method provided in the JUnit 5. And the third way is use a you can see use a rule annotation. The rule, you see. The third way. And the fourth way is use the expected attributes of the add test annotation, as you can see here. That's how to test exception in JUnit. Thank you for watching.